Happy Covid-iversary. So I'm just feeling feisty today, and I want to record a video about March 13th, 2020, because it was a big day. It was a big day, and weird stuff happened to me that day that would then spiral and lead into lots of other weird stuff that would continue to happen the whole year. So I don't know. I just kind of feel like it's time to start talking about it. So on March 13th, 2020, I had no friends. On March 13th, 2020, I was just a lonely lady who had been recovering from a chronic illness for 6 years with lots of knowledge and nobody to share it with. And now on March 13th, 2021, I feel like a completely different person. I know where I came from, and it's just interesting. And so I first want to tell you what happened on March 13th, 2020. I found out I got into UW-Madison, which was amazing. I was so happy to finally be accepted there. And in the same moment, to know I would probably never actually be going there, right? I don't know if it's intuition, if it's just like following God's path or listening to his voice. I feel connected with him. And so I just knew my kids were never going back to public school. And I was not going to be going to UW in the fall. And probably never going to UW at all, right? That became apparent very quickly. And then my husband got in a car accident that night driving home from Janesville. And that was pretty nuts. He was involved in a hit and run where someone pulled up along the driver's side of his car on the shoulder to pass him because apparently he wasn't going fast enough for them. And it was a 2-lane highway, and they pulled out back in front of him onto the highway and hit the front end of his car while they did it and then sped off 100 miles an hour. So that was a really interesting day. Very scary. I was very thankful and grateful my husband was alive. I couldn't even tell you. I wasn't even upset about anything with the car or anything. I just knew that day, the day that the world shut down, and my life was changing again, that the thing I was meant to do in that moment was to only be grateful that my husband was alive, and it wasn't to worry about the fact that that was a new to us car that we had just got in the last year and all that, all that worldly worry about the car and the money. It just wasn't where it was that day. And I think that changed me. And I think my husband seeing that that was my response to that changed him, or it started to change his heart. Um, it's taken us a long time through 2020 to realize kind of what we were dealing with in our lives. And I think that for better or worse, the pandemic really just took the rest of the wool out of our eyes and allowed us to move forward on a healing path that we really needed in our lives. Because quite frankly, when someone you love is dealing with a chronic illness, in my case, it was me, but in your case, it might be your spouse. I think it's very hard for um, both people in that situation, right? Because like I was so sick, I could not function in my role, right? I was not able to work anymore. So my income was just gone, right? And that wasn't something we were ever prepared for. I was healthy. I was 25 or 26 at the time, very young. Um, and I didn't think that I was going to have something like that happen to me so soon. I mean, I think you kind of plan and prepare for the fact that your health declines as you age, but like when you're 25 and you just had 2 kids, you're like, "I'm good. I'm in the prime of my life." And then the bottom just fell out for me. And so I had to quit my job, and we became a one income family, not really by choice. And that was really, really hard. And we had spent a long, long time recovering from that. And my husband worked very hard to get us out of that situation, and I thank God for that too. I mean, I try to not take credit for what went on here, but to give that credit to God. He was leading us through that. Once we started listening to him, it became easier to make choices that we could feel good about. And in doing that and aligning ourselves in the right order, things just by nature started to get better. Um, and so that was a very shocking thing for us to go through together, was me completely falling apart and not being able to do any of my roles in our life at all. And I took on so much guilt for that. Like, I did. I took it on myself because I did not understand things then. Like, I felt like I was failing and it was my fault, and like my all of the places I took my worth from in the world, right? All of those places were gone. All of those things were gone. I didn't have my career anymore. I was going to, excuse me, I was going to school, and I had to stop doing that too because I was failing. I couldn't even pass my classes. I had to drop them. And like, that was a huge part of me, my academic career. I could excel there. I took a lot of worth there. And all those things were gone. Like, they were gone. And I didn't know what to do. I just took care of my kids the best I could. I just gave up on myself after a while because I wasn't getting the help I needed in the medical system at all. And so there were periods of time that I would go through just floating around because I couldn't find someone to even like help me get my feet on the ground. And my husband watched this all happen, and he had to take up roles he wasn't prepared for. And he was working a lot already. I mean, his full-time job is a 50-hour a week gig, right? So this was just sheer and utter insanity. You're watching your spouse dying in front of you. I mean, I was going through some serious, serious health conditions as a result of how my body reacted to treating and trying to heal from Lyme disease. The people who were trying to help me for most of that time were not helping. They were making it worse and worse and worse. And I wasn't making it any better either, but I don't blame myself. I do think that I could have handled a lot of it differently, but I didn't have this knowledge then, and I worked really hard to get myself here. So I don't take that on anymore because that's my past. And it's like I don't live there anymore. But it was still affecting us in 2020 because neither one of us had ever taken any time to heal from traumas we had had in our past even before that, right? Like, you're usually carrying it all with you because nobody ever addresses it. It's not like you really want to. It doesn't look very nice when you look at all the painful, traumatic things that have happened to you in your life. You're like, oh, please spare me the pain, right? Especially when you're dealing with something painful like that. But I started to realize in 2020 that like my life had gotten significantly better, but I was dealing with these feelings and I didn't know where they were coming from. And they were coming from all this unhealed crap, not only from Lyme, but from friendships, relationships, other aspects of your life, things you dealt with when you were growing up that you had no idea were still affecting you in that way. Yeah, all of it. It was like it was all here. Take it. It was like on March 13th, 2020, God took it all and said, here you go. You're ready. Start dealing with this. You're back in your house and you have a choice, right? You got stuck in your house before. That's how I looked at it when I was sick. You did this once and you got through it. Now you have to do it again. But this time you're dealing with the baggage and you're actually dealing with it and getting it out. And I had spent the last 2 years decluttering the physical junk in my house. Now it was time to do the emotional junk in my house, right? With my whole family, not just myself, because that's what happened when we took on homeschool, right? It was like, okay, you want this responsibility, it's yours. How are you going to do it? And so I'm going to run out of time here, but that's my point, and that's where I want to take the next part of this video in the conversation, is that it was the opportunity to heal all that stuff, but you had to look at it. You had to face it. We faced it. Our life is a lot different now, and I love it. And that's it.